What is going on, guys? Welcome back. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. This isn't really going to be in the vein of most of my videos, but I think this is pretty important to make, and yeah, I just want to let you guys know that if you're not super into the competitive circuit, or if you're not really into competitive VGC, but you want to get into it, this might be interesting for you, but it's going to be different than what I normally do. This is obviously less visually appealing. I don't really have a lot of slides or anything like that to show you guys, and it's also just going to be a little bit more serious and a little bit more, I don't know, it's not discussion based because obviously this is a video and you guys can't talk back to me, but yeah, it's not in the same style as most of my normal stuff, so I just want to let you guys know that before we jump into it, because it's definitely going to be different. This video is definitely more geared towards the competitive side of things and discussing things with top players and just throwing my ideas out there. So let's just jump into it. As you guys know, I was at the London International this past weekend. I actually just got back yesterday, and overall it was a really interesting event. There was a lot of positive things, there was a lot of negative things, and I wanted to give my thoughts on the event in general because there are, in my opinion, some things that really should be improved, and I don't know, it seems silly not to talk about them because I'm not sure how much of our feedback necessarily is seen. So I think having a video which is public, and I don't know if people will watch it, but at least within the community I think it's important to discuss and to talk about where we need to go with this circuit and with this game. And so yeah, I'm just gonna jump into it. Basically, I was at the London International, and I want to start with the positive things because this isn't intended to be a rant. I'm not trying, I am not intending to be super emotional about this, but I don't know, I just want to give my genuine feedback for the event. So I want to start with the positives. It was pretty well run. So UK events actually traditionally are not run very well. I believe they finish at late hours of the night / early hours of the morning often, which is really bad from a competitive standpoint because it's hard to focus if you've been traveling all weekend, and then you get to the event and then it takes forever, and each round takes 2 hours. That's very bad. And so I really want to say I think the event was run very well. It still took a while, especially the first day, but I think that's not really, I don't think it could have been run much better in my opinion in terms of time, because there was a lot to do. It's 50-minute rounds, and then sudden death, and then, or tiebreakers, and then sometimes sudden death, and then all this other stuff. So overall, that was super important in my opinion, being able to run an event well in terms of time. Other things, the stream team was super flexible. They let me wear headphones, and at first I wasn't sure if they were gonna let me, but they let me wear headphones underneath the protective headgear, which is super nice, the noise canceling headphones, or earbuds I guess is what I was actually wearing, and they were super willing to work with that. They were friendly with the timer. They were accommodating with having to use the bathroom and stuff. So overall, stream team, and also the commentary was I haven't listened to all of it, but the commentators in my opinion were pretty good, though I haven't listened to all of it, but from what I heard they were really good, and also pretty friendly and easy to talk to. So that was all good. Stream was all good. The venue itself was really nice. We actually oftentimes don't have access to good food options when we're at these tournaments, but this venue had really nice, really easy, quick access to food, and that was actually huge. There's a little cafe stand right outside of the tournament itself, and it doesn't sound like it makes a big difference, but it honestly can, because when you're in a convention center and there's no food around anywhere, or it's only greasy pizza, that kind of thing, I don't know, it can be tough to find food. So not only was the venue, I'm sorry, this is misleading. It was crowded, but it wasn't it wasn't uncomfortable. It wasn't packed. I mean, it was pretty big. There was a lot of people, so it was pretty crowded. But it never, in my opinion, it never felt too bad in terms of how tight it was. It was a big venue, and yeah, judging staff also, I say good for the most part. That's kind of misleading. They were honestly I talked with some of the judges afterwards, and they were super friendly. I was really impressed. It was very clear that they were passionate about this and that they were interested in making it better. I just didn't want to say judging staff good and leave it there, because I will talk a little bit in a bit about some of the other stuff that happened at the event. So all that was really good. There was other positive things as well. The format was really fun. I really enjoyed it. And there was lots of really positive things about the event, but there was some stuff that I really do think is important to talk about. So I kind of want to go from less, I want to start with something that's a little bit less serious. I'll talk a bit about my personal experience. So in 2 different rounds, I had judges make calls that were incorrect. The first was the more serious one, so I'll talk about that one first. Round 6. I was 5-0. I went into round 6. I win game 1, and I'm feeling pretty good. And my opponent goes, "Hey, my DS has turned to red. My battery's on red. Can we move to a charging station?" And I'm sitting here, and I'm like, "Of course." I'm not gonna say no, and we can't move to a charging station. You need to charge your DS. So I say yes. and we wait and we wait, and there wasn't like judges around for some reason. Like they were normally pretty good around. I think we just happened to be on like a long wait period because I guess they were doing stuff. But you know, we waited and it was fine. And after like about, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 minutes, a judge like comes and moves us over, and turn my DS back on. Like have to reconnect. We're having a lot of trouble reconnecting, and yes, it was like it just took a while. Like I don't know, it took a while. Like I think the whole process because like the DS wires blocked our games, and so the whole process I think took about 10 minutes. So now it's game 2, and I make like I just like I am a little unfocused and I lose game 2. I definitely could have won it, but my opponent played well and I messed up. So I'm like, okay, fine, it's game 3. So going into game 3, I like realized that we're running low on time, and so I'm like, okay, gotta play hyper offense. And we go into game 3, and like turn 1 he sits with Trick Room, and then turn 2 they call time. And even though we moved and we took like 10 minutes, we spent 10 minutes moving, we didn't get an extension. And I think part of that is definitely on me. I didn't ask for an extension because I didn't realize that it was a thing, like just because I was so caught up in the match. But not getting an extension was like pretty bad, because like I think that had we had like a 10-minute time extension, it would have been totally fine. But because we didn't have an extension, like I lost the game like that at that point, which is pretty bad. So in my opinion, that's not super severe, because I think if I'd asked for an extension, I would have gotten one. I definitely think that one is on me because I didn't ask for an extension because I just wasn't thinking. But it was not great. The other thing that happened was the new timer. I think there was some confusion about. To my understanding, and this could be wrong, but I think it's correct. If you are not in animations, if you are choosing your moves and they call time, the first turn is turn 0. And I believe the reasoning behind that is if I've chosen my move and my opponent hasn't and they call time, that influences our decision, and the judges doesn't know who's chosen their moves and who hasn't when time is called. And so my like first round day 2, they called time, and they said that the first turn was turn 1, and that to my knowledge is incorrect. And I'm fairly certain that is the case, that it is incorrect. However, I had, like, regardless of the amount of turns, I had certainly lost that game, so I'm not super like frustrated about that, but I think it is pretty worrying. I think I have to double check, but there may have been a mistake in the finals as well, with timer being called and only 3 turns being taken when it should have been 4, because the players were like choosing their moves and it was taken. But I don't know about that. So that stuff is less serious for me personally, because I could have asked for an extension for the first case, and for the second case it didn't affect anything the second time. But I think it is something that needs to be like very strongly clarified across the board. And I could be wrong, I could be misunderstanding, but if my understanding is correct, then the timer has been not called correctly. I also want to talk about the timer. This isn't that serious because we can't do anything about it, because like it's built to the game and there's not the software to go back to what we had before. But it's honestly really bad. Like I think Ray was telling me he lost a game. I think Ray played a 50-minute Celestial Mirror or something. Or like he played a Celestial Mirror where they struggled, because that's how long the game went. And I don't know. I think that an improvement to timer that would have been good is just add a little bit more time to what we had last time, because I played a half an hour Milotic versus Porygon 2 match where both were burnt and both had recover. And it was really frustrating. And I don't know. I think that like the overall round timer is bad in my opinion, because it takes things away from the game, right? Like it takes things away from the in-game. And I think as much as you have stuff happening outside of the game, the more stuff that you have to have judges or players do, the more room for error that is. And also it's just, I don't know. I personally would rather have games end early, like a little bit early, than have games go to, I don't know, like 30, 40, 50-minute games. Like that is, in my opinion, pretty ridiculous. And yeah, overall, it's just bad. Like the new timer, I don't know how other people feel. I personally was not a fan at all. Of course, I'm sure I'll get comments that are like, yeah, Wolfie, you can't win without the old timer. You timer staller, like whatever, dudes. Like that's on you. But yeah, overall, it's not a positive change for the game. And if there were software that could fix it, I would be very in favor of that. Because I don't know, it's just bad. Okay, let's talk about more serious stuff. So I was gonna pull up Twitter for this, I just forgot, but it's okay. You guys will be okay. Team sheets. So first of all, I should preface this by saying, no, I'll just jump right into it. Okay, team sheets. This should be bolded as well. Okay, so let's talk about team sheets. What are team sheets? Basically, when you go to some VGC events, not all, they will have you fill out a piece of paper similar to a deck list in TCG, where you state your Pokemon, your items, your moves, your abilities, and your nature. That might be it. I think that's it. And basically, we've had them for a while, since I think 2014 we started having them, maybe a bit before, but I think it was 2014 World we had them. So for the first time. It wasn't. They haven't always been around to the point. And in the past, they were only ever used for streaming purposes, where they'd give the teams to the streams, and the commentators would know what the players had, so that they could like understand what was going on better. And that was always the purpose. Like, we never had anything else. They would put the reports up on Pokemon.com, but they would always botch something. Like, I made a video of my quote Florida Regionals where they gave me like several. I think they gave me a Xerneas. And they just like messed everything up. So like, they've never been a big deal before. And so what happened at this event was actually really bad. So this was okay. I'm going to try and be objective about this because I think it's important. So here's the situation. Because in the past, now we have battle teams. We don't have battle boxes, and I don't know the intricacies of it, but basically now you are theoretically, and I don't think people did it, but you are theoretically able to hack your battle box, what was formerly your battle team, whatever it's called, so that you can change, like, you can edit your Pokemon if you have the hacking capabilities and you know how. You could do this, and you could edit your Pokemon. Where I don't think you could do that before. I'm not sure. Maybe it's easier now. I don't know personally, because obviously I'm not trying to do that, but I think it's possible now. And so basically, in order to prevent that, the way that the tournament staff thought the best way to do that was to use these team sheets and to treat them like very seriously. And the problem is not actually, in my opinion, with them taking this so seriously. It's the fact that we were given no warning. And so basically, we have this thing, we have team sheets, and we're like, all right, whatever, it's team sheets. Like, we fill them out the night before. Some people filled them out the morning of, because there was never any consequences before. And that might have been faulty reasoning, because just because something hasn't happened in the past doesn't mean it's not going to happen in the future. But we didn't think twice about it, you know? Like, we're like, I think, like, we didn't think about it, but I'm sure if we had, we would have been like, yeah, like, we always have team sheets. They're never a big deal. Like, I never have thought about them before. It's never been a problem. Like, I'm sure it's fine. But the issue was because of, okay, and actually I'll talk about this now. So I'm going to jump to this really quick. So this is Ian, this is Raikou. And Ian, I'm not calling you out, dude. I think, I don't know. I don't want to call you out, but basically Ian tweeted this December 8th, the night before, after the battle box has been locked and after registration. And basically he tweeted this picture, and it's funny, right? He's got Big 6 in his battle box. And it's like a joke, and, you know, it's like, it was clever and whatever. But the problem is that I think that this tweet actually had a relatively large impact on the reason why, like, team sheets were so severe. Because this is, like, even though it's funny, even though it was a joke, like, it's kind of not, it's not good, right? Like, he's, like, you're showing that, like, you can hack the battle boxes, and, you know, this thing got 62 retweets. 62 retweets, 184 likes. Like, the judges saw this, and I don't know. I think that's a big factor in terms of why the penalty was so severe. So yes, people, like, I'm sure if Ian knew that his tweet would have had this kind of, like, would have had this kind of impact on the tournament. And of course, I can't say for sure. Oh, did I like this? Whatever. Would have had like an impact on the tournament. I know, like, I'm sure he wouldn't have done it. And like, people, like, it was funny. Like, we didn't think twice about it because I don't know, like you know. Like, it's never been an issue before, but I think that this kind of stuff, just in general, it's not good. It doesn't look like, it doesn't reflect well in the community. It's not, I don't know. And this time we actually had consequences for somebody in the community doing this. So yeah, that was that. So basically, we walked into day 2, or we finished day 1, and my friend Marcus, who, you know, I'm very close with, and like, we're good friends. He'd written down the wrong nature on his Gastrodon. He'd written sassy he had something like he meant to have calm, but he wrote sassy, or he wrote sassy and he had calm. I don't really know. And because of that, they gave him a game 1 loss and removed Gastrodon from his battle box. And that ruined his tournament. He went 8-1, winning the first 8 in a row, day 1, and went 1-4 day 2. And it wasn't just him. It happened to, I believe, 5 other players. It might have been 6. It might have been 4. I was not one of them, guys. Blake tweeted, I tweeted that somebody had lost their Porygon 2 because somebody had lost their Porygon 2, but I didn't know who. I didn't know their name off the top of my head. And Blake responded and he said, I hope, basically implying that the somebody was me. And then I thought it was funny, so like I pretended to troll a bit with it. Like, I don't think I ever explicitly said anything, but I'm sorry if I confused you. I was just trolling. Like, I didn't think it mattered. But yes, there was a lot of players who lost members of their team, and like, I don't know. It's including like Eduardo, like all of the top 4 at Worlds except for me. Had something. Both Ed and Marcus lost a Pokemon, and Jonathan Evans lost his item on Tapu Bulu because he wrote down an item that did the exact same thing. Yeah, and so that's just like super unfortunate, and like, I don't really know, like, I think that in the future, I personally, if things like this, I think in the future we're all going to be more careful with team sheets, because we just didn't know. If we'd known that it was going to be a big deal, when we asked some of the judges, we were told explicitly that they were for commentary. Like, people asked the judges, and that's what we were told, and so we didn't think twice. Of course we didn't think twice. I mean, we could have been more careful, and most people were, right? Of the 60 day 2 players, or however many there were, only, I don't know, I guess it was less than, it was like 50, a little bit more than 50, like, most of them did it correctly, but over 10% of the field was essentially eliminated because of this. And so if you're going to do things like this in the future, if there's going to be things that are a big deal, as a player, it's really nice to know that it's going to be important so that we don't mess it up, especially if it's something we don't think about. I can't really think of something else, but like, imagine that we did, like, there was online registration for a tournament, and then like they didn't tell us that there wasn't going to be in person or something like that. I don't really know if there's a comparison, but just in general, more communication would be really appreciated, because this was pretty, like, this was Europe's event. This was like the European event, and the fact that some players like Marcus and Ed were just like that, like a typo and a written error. Somebody wrote Porygon instead of Porygon 2. Somebody wrote Protect on Gyarados twice. That's like clearly not somebody trying to game the system. That's not somebody trying to hack. Like, he just wasn't thinking and wrote Protect twice. Yeah, and so like stuff like that, like to ruin your season, to like ruin weeks of, maybe not weeks, like hours of preparation and all this stuff is really bad. Okay, so I talked a bit about that. I won't go on about that. I think most people understand that that's like, it wasn't wrong of the judges to enforce the rule. It just would have been much more valuable to have been told about it. But it was like, it was within their like, it was within the rules. Like, I looked at the rules, and like they are in fact a lot, like it's in there that is the penalty for making a mistake. It's just that it had never been an issue before, and we'd never known about it. So yeah, I'll get off the soapbox on that one. Let's talk about X3 cut. This is, or X whatever. I did X3 cut for this event. This is something that I'm personally really passionate about, because, okay, basically, if you don't have an X something cut, what happens? Who determines who moves on? You have an arbitrary multiple of 8. Multiple of 8, yeah, multiple of 8 or multiple of 2 to the something, right? You have a 2 to the something cut, and that determines who moves on, and basically depends on the tournament size, and what determines if people who are, like, what is the bubble? What determines resistance? Because resistance is what determines who moves on. And basically resistance is supposed to be a measure of your strength of schedule. But unfortunately, in VGC, like, it's in my opinion, a pretty terrible way of determining things, and I'll talk a little bit about this. So, first of all, let's just look at, oopsie, wrong one. Let's just look at this. So these are standings, just so you guys are aware. So as you can see, the 11-3 Nils and 8th seed versus Jure from also 11-3. All that determined this was a 2-point difference in resistance. Let's see if I can zoom in. I can't. I can. Yes, and you can see that, like, I don't know. There was 14 minus 6, so 8. There were 8 people with X and 3 records, and 3 moved on. And so, as a player, it's one of the most frustrating things in the world to not get in on resistance. Like, it is incredibly discouraging. And if you think that, like, oh, resistance is fair, and, like, you know, it determines your strength of schedule and whatever, to give you an anecdote, in 2015, World Championships, so, like, the biggest event of the year, do you know what determined who moved on and who didn't? The 8th seed was a guy named Laios, who I really like. I have a lot of respect for him as a player. I think he's phenomenal. I think he deserved to make top 8. Don't get me wrong. But Laios was in 8th place, and the guy in 9th place was just a little bit below him on resistance. And I tried to find the picture, but because Nugget Bridge is down, I can't find it because it was on Nugget Bridge. And the reason why Laios advanced and not the 9th place seed was because in round 1, Laios got a bye, which gives you perfect resistance, because there was an odd number of players in the tournament, and because Laios just happened to be pretty fortunate, he got a bye round 1, and it gave him perfect resistance, and that determined whether or not he moved on. So it's something that is completely out of everyone's control. You can't control how your opponents do. I think Trista, to my understanding, won her first 3 games, lost her 4th round, and won her last one. So, like, she basically, the only way she could have had her same record and done better is if she just happened to win her last one, and she got last out of all the X3s. That's ridiculous. Like, what was she supposed to do better? Like, if her opponents had done better, she would have been up here. There's nothing she could do except, of course you can always lose less, right? You can always lose less, but as a player, here's the other thing. What is the cost of doing an in this case, X3? What would be the cost of doing an X3 cut? You can see you have 14 people, so here's what happens. You could actually, I think, 5... Sorry, guys, 1 sec. 6 plays 14, 7 plays 13. No, you can't do it. 8 plays. Okay, you can't do it. You're a bit short, but basically you just have an X3 cut, and the top seeds get buys. So in this case, you'd want to get it down to a top 8, so I think you'd need everyone except the first seed, I believe, would play, unless I'm crazy. But I don't know. Like, this is pretty easy to figure out. But basically, there was no reason at all, like no reason at all, not to do an X3 cut. And if you're gonna tell me that time is an issue, we streamed 6 of the last round's games because we had more time to fill. So we streamed 6 of the final round. We could have finished that final round and not spent an extra 2 or 3 hours streaming the games, and we could have just done an X3 cut and played the first round of cut, and it would have been exactly the same, except it would have been way, in my opinion, more fair because you don't have to worry about things like resistance. There was a tournament in Dortmund where they had a top 8 cut, and somebody who only lost 1 game missed top cut, which is ridiculous. Actually, genuinely ridiculous. Like, if you only lose 1 game, and it was 6 or 7 or 8 rounds, I'm sorry, I don't have the actual facts, guys, I'm really sorry, but, like, if you only lose 1 game and you're not making top cut, like, okay, so I, of course, am personally invested and I'm biased, take this with a grain of salt, but I went 4 wins, 1 loss day 2, and 7 wins, 2 losses day 1, and, like, I have a hard time believing that 4 wins, 1 loss day 2 is not, like, it's not good enough to move on. I went 8-0 in my last 8 games. Not in my last 4 sets. I went 8-0 in games because I was done with jet lag. Like, I warmed up. I was feeling good. This isn't about me. This is about resistance, of course. But, like, as a player, it's so frustrating to feel like if my opponents had done better, I would be this 8th seed. I would be the 7th seed, you know? And that is, like, it's incredibly frustrating to have something out of your control, especially when it's like, okay, part of the reason is that Tom, which is the software that they use, sucks. It's not good. It's a bad piece of hardware, and it can't do X something cut, which, by the way, what? Why can it not do manually? Like, when they want to do X something cut, they have to do it manually, and I understand that's like annoying and it's problematic, but, and like, nonetheless, this is important, and they've done it before. They did it for Worlds, and they've done it for US Nationals. They even did it for X2 Day 2, right? They were able to do that, so it's possible. Like, you can do it. I don't know if they have to enter it manually. I'm not a judge. I don't know about, like, how it can be done, but it obviously can be done because they did it at Worlds. And Worlds' format was perfect, right? You didn't cut to a perfect number. You definitely had, like, it wasn't an even number. You had to have, like, a play-in round for everyone who went X2. Yes, X2 at Worlds, and that was fine. Like, because if it's the difference between feeling like you're in control of your fate as a player and not. And that, I think, like, if you're 10th seed because, like, what, your opponents, like, one of your opponents went, like, 1-4, what are you supposed to do? Like, yes, you can win less, but it's hard, right? Pokemon's a hard game, and because it's not a game like Melee where most of the time the better player wins, I would say most of the time the better player should be winning in Pokemon, but there's other stuff. There's, like, more in-depth matchups, and there's random factors, and there's other things as well, which is, like, you have to play, like, if you want to win every game, you have to play pretty well, and it's hard to play 14 games, 14 best-of-3 sets, playing perfectly, not making any mistakes, you know? Especially when trying to manage, like, new factors, like the new timer, and, like, I don't know. It's pretty bad. So we need X something cut going on. Like, this is unacceptable. This was an international event, and, like, you flew people from all over the world to this event, and then you gave them a format where, like, resistance determined who moved on. I don't know. I'm not gonna rant on this much longer because this isn't supposed to be a rant, but we need X3 cut, X something cut. You need to have a given bar for top cut, especially when there's no cost. Like, okay, one more round is your cost. That's the time cost. That is reasonable to have, like, a tournament with integrity. This tournament had integrity, I'm sorry, but yes. Okay, going back to this thing. Okay, other thing I feel strongly about, screen peeking. Oh, I should have had my picture. Okay, basically, I don't know if a lot of people are aware, but basically, here's the situation. We've had a problem in the community, not in the overall community, but there's been this issue within the community where some players are gaining an advantage by illegally looking at the other player's screen, where while the other player is selecting their moves, the player in like using this technique will look at their bottom screen and just, like, view their moves, and based on what you, like, basically know what their opponent's going to do before they input their moves, and will act accordingly. And in this tournament, I don't want to like use names, but there was a player who did, like, very well at the tournament, who was given a formal warning by the judges, and who has like used this technique against, I know personally 3 people, and I heard from other people as well. Up, like, my loose estimate is that they were doing this against at least 5 people, and I know guaranteed at least 3, and they were given a formal warning by the judges, and they still continue to do it. And I played against this player, and it's a hard thing to know for sure, but I feel very strongly that this technique was employed against me personally, and it's really frustrating because the problem is that the player who was doing it is like a talented player already, and it's very hard to play a game where you have to spend the whole time wondering if they can see your screen. And there are techniques you can use, but I personally, so I will try and tilt my DS, the top screen down, to try and block it, but I want to be able to see how much health my opponent has left. I want to be able to see like the screen, and if you block the top screen, you have to, or if you use the top screen to block the bottom, you have to keep it in your mind, and it's a lot harder. And even just having to worry about it is really bad. So like in terms of focus, like the whole time you're thinking, like you're distracted from whether or not you can actually choose your move, because you're thinking about, can they see my screen? And this was actually in this tournament, other players were also doing this, and I don't know if it's gonna be more of a problem or if it's just like, I don't know. I've had trouble with this. I personally have like noticed this probably not once a tournament, but it's happened several times this season to me. Since 2015, it happened I think once or twice in 2014, and so I don't know exactly where this is coming from. But as a community, I think that we need to. I don't know what. Okay, I think there are some steps we can take, but overall, this is unacceptable in my opinion. Like I think looking at someone else's screen is like one of the. It's like one of the like worst things in terms of like the game being competitive. So there's a couple things you can do. First of all, I think we need to, in general, if you think someone's looking at your screen, I think you have to call a judge, because part of the problem is this player who did very well, he had a formal warning issued to him, and the players who I know personally who he didn't against, who they knew that he was doing it against, they didn't call a judge because they knew that a judge had already been called, and they thought that they hadn't, like, and it's uncomfortable, right? Like if you're accusing somebody else of cheating, and that's an uncomfortable thing, but I think it's pretty important in terms of like the game being competitive, because this is having a player win a tournament who, like, you can say never mind, like, but like, sorry, having a player win a tournament who is by all definitions of the word like cheating in a way that gives him a competitive advantage in the actual competitive nature of the game and the competitive aspect. Like you can't play Pokemon if one player knows what the other guy's moves are. That's not you can't do that. Like that ruins the game. And so I wanted to have my screen cam for this because there's a trick that you can do. I'm going to describe it to you guys, and I hope that it's helpful. If you take a trading card and you turn it sideways so that like the long end is like parallel to your bottom screen, you can insert it and it will serve as a divider into the divide between the top screen and the bottom screen. So I can show you guys this on video at some point. I can make a video on Twitter, like a 5-second thing, just showing you guys how to do it. That helps a lot. I have not been doing that, and I regret it immensely. Yes. So I don't really want to go on about this much longer. It's actually a problem, and I think we actually have to do something about it if we can, because it's so like. I think the best thing is just to take preventative measures so you don't have to worry about it. I think the trading card trick is really good. I think if you can find a posture that works for you, or if you don't have to look at your screen, like your top screen, to know like what you want to do with your moves, I think that's also good. But please just be aware that it's happening. It's a problem. It's actually a problem, and it's really bad for the competitive health of the game. So if you think someone's doing this against you, call a judge, okay? And if you take preventative measures on top of that. Okay, so that's that. Next up, I'm sorry, this is gonna be a long video, but I think it's important. So I want to talk a little bit. Those are the main points I wanted to talk about. Transparency in the circuit overall, I have that here. Basically, all I want to say is that Pokemon is a huge company, and I totally respect that, and I totally understand that there's lots of hurdles and that information isn't always super clear. And this is gonna be the last thing I talk about, because this is gonna tie in with this last bullet I have here. But as a competitive player, I want to help. I want to help grow this game. I want to give feedback that is heard and is helpful and helps us get better, right? And I don't know how to do that right now. I don't know who to talk to. The response that is given is always send support tickets, but support tickets are not fulfilling as a player, because we very rarely get things back, and we don't know what the effect of our support tickets are, and I don't know, it's like, if we get a response, it's often like automatic and like generated, or like one sentence, and it's like we pour our hearts into this circuit. We pour our hearts into this game, right? Like we work so hard. We spend so much time. Like I flew to London to play this game, and I flew to London. I got back last night at 10 p.m. and I had 2 finals like this morning, and I hadn't been able to study because I was playing Pokemon, and it was worth it for me because I love this game and I love this community. And it's so difficult as a player to know that the smallest changes, one round, would make such a huge difference, or one announcement on an intercom would have such a positive effect and would change the player's perspective, whatever, like could go such a long way, and to think that like it's not being done. And so I want to help grow this game. I would love to do whatever I can to make the game better, to make the circuit better, to like help, but it's hard when we don't. Who do I talk to? I'm the world champion and I don't know who I'm supposed to talk to. I've been told to send support tickets, right? How can any of us who care about this game, how can we help? Like, why are we fighting against TPCI? That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, we are the competitive base. Why are we not helping? Why are we not working together? Why are we not trying to improve this game, which is actually beautiful? The Pokemon is an amazing game, and there's so much that's incredible about it, and it should be bigger than it is, in my opinion. Like, and it doesn't even matter, right? It doesn't even matter. Who cares? Like, who cares if people watch? Like, we're not doing this because we're trying to make Pokemon huge, but we want to help make it better, right? And so I don't understand why we have so much, like, why we don't communicate. Why are we not communicating with TPCI? Is it because the company is so big? Is it because nobody knows what they're doing? Like, why are we not talking? Why are we not engaging? Why are we not discussing? They have my email. I have never been emailed saying, "Hey, Wolf, what do you think about this?" Or that's unreasonable. I know. Like, of course they're not going to email me, but like, I don't know, man. It's frustrating to think, like, I have time. I will give time. I will give whatever it takes, whatever I can do to help grow this game, to help make things better. And I don't even know who to talk to. I don't want to send support tickets. Okay? I don't want to. Nobody wants to send support tickets. Support tickets don't, to us, it feels like they don't do anything. It feels like they don't do jack. And it's not rewarding, right? And it doesn't have to be rewarding, but we see no progress. And so, yes, I'm confident somebody somewhere reads our support tickets. And that is great. And if you're reading our support tickets, I am very sorry that you don't feel appreciated. I'm really sorry. I hope you find happiness in whatever you do. But it doesn't change the fact that we don't feel heard. We don't have a voice, man. So yeah, I swear to you, I didn't intend to rant. And so I really do apologize for that. I was trying to just provide objective information, but I'm passionate about this, you know? Like, I care about this. This matters to me. This isn't a joke. Like, I didn't fly to London to, like, you know, see Big Ben and be like, you know, like, I came because I wanted to play. I wanted to compete. I wanted to be a part of this community in this game that I love. And so it's frustrating to have things that, like, are so silly, just, like, mess up the tournament itself. Like, these things should not be an issue. Everything here, these three things, should not have been an issue. This is harder to stop. Screen peeking is harder to stop. But in general, like, we should be doing something about it. I don't know. Okay. I've spoken a lot, and I feel bad because this is, like, people watching this don't have a medium in which to respond. So I would like to discuss this, like, especially among, like, the competitive, like, the really serious competitive base of the game. I've expressed a lot of opinions. I'm interested to hear your guys' opinions. Thank you for watching if you stuck with me this long. I really do appreciate it. I really am interested in what you guys think as well. And yeah, I don't know. There's other things that we could probably also talk about, but this has already gone on for long enough. So thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time. Peace.